If you know me, you'll know I have a thing for Grand Seiko. In fact, the only wristwatch I own right now is a Grand Seiko. So when I heard Grand Seiko were making a next-level version of its most popular watch, the SBGA 211 Snowflake, I knew one day it would end up on a list very much like this. Let's see what it's all about. Looking to buy, sell, or exchange a premium watch? Visit Watchfinder, the pre-owned watch specialist. I know it's annoying me saying, but when you subscribe to the channel, it really makes a difference. 60% of the people viewing aren't subscribed, so if you're one of them, please take the opportunity to click the subscribe button and help make sure the channel continues to be here. Thank you very much. We're of course talking about the Grand Seiko SLGH005 White Birch. In true Grand Seiko style, the way it looks, and the nickname it's graced itself with, are motivated by one of the many awe-inspiring landscapes found in the heart of Japan. In this case, the White Birch forests near the brand's studio in Shizuku-ishi. Just as well, Grand Seiko is based in one of the most beautiful places in the world then, as a dial inspired by the roundabouts of Milton Keynes wouldn't quite have the same appeal. The easiest way to tell you what I like about the White Birch is to tell you why I didn't buy its bigger brother, the Snowflake. I've come close to a currency exchange on one a few times, and were it not for the larger case size of 41mm and the swooping, elongated shape, I'd be wearing one right now. The power reserve on the dial and the lightweight titanium I personally rather like. The spring drive movement is pretty nifty too, all the benefits of quartz accuracy without having to change a battery like a cheap TV remote. By comparison, the White Birch's steel case is modern, angular, and well proportioned. That reduction of a millimeter may sound minor, but the difference is profound. A thicker bezel and subsequently smaller dial help visually too, and not to mention the thickness. A reduction of nearly a millimeter in height to 11.7 millimeters makes the White Birch eminently more wearable. Overall, it feels more like my SBG V245, which is, I think, one of the most attractive watches ever made. But with Grand Seiko, you're here for the dial, and that's where the White Birch excels. I wouldn't say it was better than the Snowflakes, although power reserve haters probably will. Rather, different. What's different is the deeper texture in the dial, the glittery silver finish and the wider hands and markers that sit astride it. What's the same is the enormously high quality, the levels of finish far exceeding what's to be expected at either the White Birch or the Snowflake's price point. I actually prefer the Snowflake's dial as a base, the translucent ridges more subtle and serene, but I still really enjoy the White Birches and actually prefer the broader hands and markers. Together with the better case, and a crown that doesn't stick out like a stovepipe hat, the White Birch is a surefire winner. And, best of all, it's not a limited series or only available in another country that's not yours. You can buy this watch without committing to a round-the-world trip. Actually, no, that's not best of all. Best of all is what's doing all the hard work behind this artisanal exterior, moving gears and wheels and springs. It's not technical in the way the Snowflake spring drive is technical, the caliber 9SA5 being a fairly traditional mechanical movement, but it is wholly impressive for a number of reasons. First is the innovation at work here. You'd think after centuries there was nowhere left to go with a straightforward mechanical movement, but it seems Grand Seiko didn't get the memo. It's a high beat movement, ticking 10 times per second rather than 8 for a smoother sweep closer to the Snowflake spring drive. It has an 80-hour power reserve from 2 bulging mainsprings. And most impressively, it has an altogether original escapement design that uses dual impulses to stretch the power budget to the max. Last time we heard something like that was the 70s with the coaxial escapement. The time before that was 1754 when Thomas Mudge gave us the ubiquitous lever escapement. But second, and perhaps even more important, is the investment not just in the technology, but the design. The 9R65 in the Snowflake is a clever movement, but visually unimpressive. A long way off the mastery of the dial, at least. It's very good, don't get me wrong, but by comparison the white Birch's 9S-A5 knocks it out of this universe. Put it this way, I probably wouldn't look at the 9R65 more than a handful of times. I'd look at the 9S-A5 every day. What I don't like about the Grand Seiko SLGH005 white Birch is going to be a short but expensive list. That's right, the price. The Snowflake is a £5,400 watch, already a not insignificant amount of money to spend on a left-field Rolex rival that hails from the other side of the world. That's no criticism of the quality. If anything, the Snowflake presents an impressive amount of value for money, especially in titanium and with that dial. So, of course, the white Birch was going to cost more. I knew that. You knew that. It's no great conundrum that making a better watch with a new, higher-end movement in it was going to require digging a little deeper. But still, seeing the £805,000 price does still turn the decision from a no-brainer into a slight brainer. If this watch cost what the Snowflake did, it would be a done deal. But then, if Ferraris all cost BMW money, you'd see a lot more Ferraris on the road, too. Again, it's not a criticism. I still think this watch represents good value when compared to its rivals. Neither Rolex nor Omega can touch the quality seen here front or back, and both will happily take the same, if not more, money off your hands for the privilege. Especially when it comes to the back, you're heading more in the direction of Jaeger-LeCoultre to find a worthy rival. Nevertheless, it's strong money, and a decision that I expect was probably a hard one to make at Grand Seiko headquarters. I mean, the great thing is that you can still purchase the Snowflake if the white Birch is just too much for you. But once you've seen that caliber 9S-A5, it's going to be hard to settle. And so, like me, you'll end up wanting the thing you can't have and ignoring the thing you can. I say can't have. What I mean is, can I A, convince myself to spend that much, and B, not chicken out and spend that much on a Rolex instead, for residuals? The fear with spending that much money is the potential to lose it, which I suppose should come under the same mentality as the old expression, don't bet what you can't afford to lose. In fairness to the white Birch, the residuals are looking strong, especially for a non-limited edition, and that reassures me. This would be the most I've ever spent on a watch, however, and that makes me anxious. Whatever I get, my SBG V245 will stay, so I'll continue to own a Grand Seiko at the very least. It would just be nice for one to be a flagship model with the latest greatest caliber and that incredible dial, but it would also be nice not to spend more than the Snowflake. Am I convincing myself to get the Snowflake instead? Will either choice inevitably yield regret for the other? With all this decision making on my next watch, am I slowly descending into madness? The Grand Seiko SLGH005 is a milestone achievement for the Japanese watchmaker, and owning one would honestly feel like a privilege. It's a different experience entirely to buying something like a Rolex, despite Grand Seiko's parent brand Seiko generally moving such volume. It feels more considered, the handiwork of a group of dedicated craftspeople rather than something that came off the factory line. Complete with the caliber 9S-A5, it's another example in this roundup of potential watches that reminds Switzerland it's not alone when it comes to horology. And to be honest, that's one of the most attractive things about it. Whilst I deliberate, why don't you let me know what you think of the white Birch, and perhaps let me know if I've missed anything I should have considered. To find out which watch I choose, make sure you're subscribed. Until next time. Discover more exceptional watches at Watchfinder. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please do consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If there are any watches you'd like to see featured, please let us know in the comments below.